Good morning. Welcome to Crocker and Cohn is draft season. That's Eric Crocker. I'm Grant Cohn. Eric Crocker is a real draft expert. I just play one on the internet. I want to ask Eric Crocker's opinion on a lot of it's time. I've been procrastinating doing my homework for a long time, but it's a month until the draft. It's time to do the research. I've been cramming. Eric does this for real. So I'm going to pretend like I know what I'm talking about. Eric's going to know what he's talking about. And we're going to go position by position. Just like it's harder this year. When a team has a first round pick, it's every person in the world has an opinion what they should do with that pick. This year it's pick 61, pick 93, and pick 105. So one in round 2, one in round 3, and a comp pick at the end of round 3. I'm guessing a lot of people don't know what the Niners will or should do with those picks. That's where Eric comes in. So Eric, let's go. Let's start with defense. When we were a couple of weeks ago, you said the Niners really should consider taking an edge rusher in round 2. If they don't take one in round 2, they could take one in round 3. Let's go through some edge rushers the Niners could target.
Hold on, real quick. I did say that before. They have brought back some guys, Kerry Hyder. They do have Ebicam. They did have a Minahu. So they are pretty deep. Now, do they have that one guy that you can count on to be very productive opposite Bosa? That still remains to be seen. But, I still think there is potential to maybe throw some resources at the edge rusher position in day 2.
I'm into it. I mean, Samson Ebukam is good, but they wanted a D Ford caliber counterpart for Nick Bosa. That's not Ebukam. If they could get that at pick 61, great. Or at pick 90 or at pick 93. So let's name some names.
All right. Right now, I think one of the first guys that kind of come in my mind is Maje Sanders. This is a guy who rushed, and I thought he was very active as a rusher for Cincinnati. Now, he is still a little raw in the sense of just pass rush refinement, and he has this really lean kind of build. He went to the combine and weighed in at 228 pounds, which was crazy. Supposedly, he was sick going into the combine, so he dropped a ton of weight. And he didn't run well at all either. So he was 228 pounds and ran 4.7. It was something ridiculous.
Damn.
Went to his pro day. His weight was much better. He was at 247 pounds. So he gained 20 pounds within the combine and his pro day. And I think that should help. And he has the frame to be able to hold that and a little bit more weight as well and continue to kind of work on his power.
I like the way that this guy sounds. I'm not concerned that he's a little bit smaller. I feel like the Niners have so many tweeners on their defensive line, like DNs who can also play defensive tackle. I'm cool with just having straight up speed rushers, guys that might be a better fit in a 3-4 like D Ford was. So that's a good name. You got one more?
Yeah, I got another one. Drake Jackson out of USC. Now this was a guy who was a 5-star recruit, big time capabilities, but it feels like he never really reach his full potential. He's a solid guy, and I think most people were expecting him to be a top 5 edge in his class, a guy that goes first round. Maybe didn't quite have the season that they expected to have at USC, but if you can get him at some point day 2, even if it's round 3, that's a guy who you get some big time value. Now again, another guy weighs around 255 pounds, but I think he plays strong. He's able to have some bend coming off the edge, but still has to continue to kind of improve his game. But that's definitely a guy. If you're talking about late day 2, so in that comp pick range, he's a guy I'd be shooting for.
Drake Jackson, USC. How do you pronounce it? Maje or Maje Sanders?
Maje Sanders.
Maje Sanders. Well, those two. You say so? You think both round 3 for those guys, or do you think Maje could go round 2?
I think both of them could potentially be round 3.
Okay.
Now, where they go round 3, that's to be determined. I mean, hell, even with Maje, the way he kind of tested combined with the kind of weight issues, he might even be a guy that can go day 3.
Oh, wow. It just seems like if teams are sold on their pass rushing potential, they could go high because edge rushers, pass rushers are in, high demand. So those are 2 good names. I got 2 more. I guess later on in the draft, the guys the Niners have met with, Alex Wright from UAB, 6'5", 271. He met with the Niners at Indianapolis. And then Dominique Robinson from Miami of Ohio, 6'3", 253. He was a wide receiver, also met with the Niners in Mobile. So what I'm thinking is if one of these elite edge rushers drops to the Niners in round 2, they might take him. But if they don't, they could sort of look at it as well, we don't have a needed edge. We got Kerry Hyder. We got Jordan Willis. We could take someone with the 3rd round comp pick or on day 4 who has elite traits and just bet on a project. That's what they could do.
Right. And I like that. I like that as well, because you have guys right now who, again, maybe not the guy, but you have a bunch of depth there, guys that can potentially be productive. But you know what? Let's see what we have from a guy. Maybe this 4th, 5th, 6th round guy can develop into something nice. And the 49ers, you know, if there's anything they've done well, they've done a good job of drafting well day 3.
Absolutely. And it's like, if they want to take a developmental prospect with good traits and say, Chris Eric, work your magic, that's a fair way to go about it.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to offense. I think a lot of people feel this is the biggest need on the team. Interior offensive line. Laken Tomlinson's gone. Aaron Banks is a question mark. Daniel Brunskill's he's okay. And then Alex Mack probably will play this year, probably won't play next year. So who are some interior offensive linemen the Niners could target on day 2?
Yeah, okay, so the first guy, Tyler Smith. And he's actually a tackle from Tulsa, 6'5", 324 pounds, has really long arms, big hands. He's a guy that you would draft to maybe play guard this year, like, you know, depending on what's going on with Brunskill and that whole situation. But, hey, if you don't keep McGlinchey around longer, he can 100% slide outside and be a terrific right tackle. So, you know, 49ers at some point have to start planning for the future at the tackle position. Williams isn't going to play. Trent Williams, he's not going to play forever.
Right.
So you have to start, focusing on that. What are we going to do there? Obviously, again, McGlinchey, 5th-year option coming up. Are they continue to stay with him after this season? Is he even going to play this year? So a guy like Tyler Smith, again, he is a tackle, but you can play him at guard right away and then eventually slide outside. And then another guy, Darren Cunard. And, oh, by the way, Tyler Smith, that's a guy you're going to have to take at 61. I don't know if he'll be too much further after that. Now,
he might not even be there at 61. He seems like a good prospect. Yeah,
he might not be there at 61.
Okay.
Now, Cunard, and this is a deep tackle class, so that might be something that kind of helps him get pushed down the board. I mean, you could see 10 tackles go off the board within the first 50 picks. I wouldn't be surprised by that. I think there might be 5 of them that go in the first round. All right. But another guy here, Darren Cunard out of Kentucky, he's definitely built a little bit. Another guy, he's kind of longer and leaner, and they like those guys, especially at right guard. One of my coaches brought up something that I never really thought of with the 49ers at the guard positions. He said traditionally what he's kind of noticed is they like their left guard to be bigger and their right guard to be slimmer and leaner. Now, I don't know how true that is, but that might be why we didn't see Aaron Banks play right guard at all. He primarily played left guard, and, you know, he didn't play
that's a
at all.
going back to Mike Upati, right? And who was there before Mike Upati? They had the dude from the when we were kids. Didn't they have the dude from the from the Cowboys at the end of his career? Who was their left guard like in 2009? Damn. Anyway, never mind.
Larry Allen,
yes.
maybe?
Larry Allen was on this team, was he not?
Yeah, he played a little bit. Hey, you know, real quick, Larry Allen, he actually went to my high school, Tokay, out in Lodi, and he went to Edison in Stockton, where I coached at Edison. He lived in Stockton for a little bit. You know, he got like stabbed 20 times in the head or something, and his family moved him from LA to Stockton. Yeah, something crazy.
Yeah. Is Stockton
got stabbed like all in the
safer than LA?
You said what?
Is Stockton safer than LA?
No, not really. But maybe he just kind of got away from the gang affiliations out there. But but yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, guard position, Darren Cunard, Kentucky. He could be a guy that could potentially play at a guard position. Again, almost like Moore, where it's a guy who's like a tackle, guard.
Yeah.
Where do you play him? That whole thing. So yeah.
Do you think they're looking for more of like a guard tackle or a guard center? Because you could really justify either one.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Centers is really weird because the 49ers need it, but most teams don't prioritize it in the draft. That's a guy that they get late. Because, I mean, how many centers do teams have on their roster? One? And then they have somebody that can potentially slide over there and play, like a guard that could play that. So I wonder how much of these guys, and depending on how well maybe they test. I mean, the guy, if you want a guy that can like legitimately play like guard / center, I would go. Gosh, why am I blanking on his name right now? Offensive guard out of Mississippi State, Kenyon
Green. Okay.
Kenyon
Green. Okay.
So it was weird watching.
You went to Texas A&M, I think.
Texas A&M. There we go. I said Mississippi State. I get them mixed up because same colors. But same colors. I put on 3 film from him, and he played 3 different positions. He played left tackle one game. He played right tackle another game. But he is a guard. He played guard. That's where he's going to get drafted to play guard. But in practice, he also took a bunch of snaps playing center as well. So he can play anywhere on the offensive line, but he's a legit guard, and he definitely could play center and has really good movement skills. 49ers coaches would probably like.
Okay, cool.
He'd probably go early day 2. So you would have to get him at 61, maybe even trade up a little bit to be able to get him.
All right, let me ask you a few more names. Tell me if you know anything about him. Sean Ryan from UCLA. I'm reading that he played center, guard, and tackle. It's UCLA though.
Yeah, I know that's your alma mater.
I mean, it's a Chip Kelly guy. What do you think?
Should be able to move well if he's a Chip Kelly guy. But the Chip Kelly regime also drafted Garnett. Now, I don't know if that was Balky or if that was Kelly, but clearly it wasn't a fit. But,
Yeah. All right, I got one more name for you. This dude is a guy that that the Niners asked to take center snaps at Mobile. I think we've talked about him before. Small school dude from Chattanooga, Cole Strange.
Here's a name that's very popular, especially among 49ers Twitter right now. He's made his rounds. But again, that's a guy that I, definitely project to be a day 2 guy. I'd assume he'd be available there for 49ers at 61. But that
maybe
would be
even
a
93.
good pick to where if they want to prioritize moving on from Alex Mack or even kind of bolster up the line and kind of move on from Brunskill, he'd be a guy.
Yeah, I mean, they could take Cole Strange, play him at guard for a year, and then move him over to center. When Mac leaves if they wanted to. All right, that's 4 names. That's good. Let's move on. How about safety? Now, I'm curious to see how you're looking at this. Would you be looking at strong safeties or free safeties?
I think in today's day and age, man, you just got to be versatile and be interchangeable, right? Like if you really focus on the 49ers and their defense and you look at whether it's Ward out there, Tart out there, Hufanga, you see them play just as many snaps at single high as they do down. Now, they ask different things to different guys, so they're not going to ask Hufanga or Tart to play as much man coverage as they do with Ward. But as far as single high goes, you see them do that. You'll see a bunch of snaps with Hufanga doing that. You see them all play too high. So to me, it's who just brings the overall legit skill set. And the first guy, and he's probably my safety 1 in this class. Safeties are weird because it's kind of like running backs where sometimes they go high if they're just super like everything that they want. But you see a guy, shout out to the ball head gang. Let's go. Daxton Hill. Daxton Hill. That's my safety. Like if he's there at 61, you gotta take him. I don't care who else is on the board at that point. He's not the biggest of guys, almost like a clone of Jimmy Ward, but he ran 4.38. He has terrific nickel capability, so he kind of kills 2 birds with 1 stone there. He can play single high, 2 high, in the slot. A terrific tackler, extremely tough. Again, has that speed. That's my number 1 guy.
Daxton Hill. Okay. Do you think he'll be there at 61?
I don't know. Because again, it's weird with safeties. Sometimes they start flying off the board. Sometimes you see guys day 2, but you might see kind of a jump with like what we saw from Savage that played at Maryland, got drafted to the Packers. He ended up going, I believe, late 1st round or early 2nd round, something like that. Daxton Hill could potentially be in that range, but if he's there at 61, you got to take him.
I like you. So you said he can play safety or slot?
Yep.
I like
100%.
That. I mean, that's exactly what the Niners freaking need.
He really reminds me of the safety out of Oregon last year. Gosh, why am I blanking on his name right now? But safety out of Oregon, where he played like he was listed as a safety, but played a lot of nickel. Can't think of his name right now, but safety out of Oregon last year, similar skill set.
How are his ball skills? Daxton Hill.
Solid.
I'm obsessed with getting a playmaker in the secondary.
Well, if you want a playmaker in the secondary,
I want a playmaker in the damn secondary
position.
I do.
Jerome Mckinley, safety out of Oregon. That's my second guy on this list. Had a bunch of interceptions, I believe like 6 or 7 interceptions last season. Didn't run his 40 at the combine. So I don't know if he's worried about his speed, but he was a guy that they put a lot on his plate. He had to play too high. He had to play single high, but he definitely was a guy that got his hands on a lot of balls. Pause. All right, but he's a guy that got his hands on a lot of passes.
Well played.
And made plays. So Jerome McKinley, that's my late day 3, early day 4 guy. Now, depending on what he does at the pro day, if he goes and he runs extremely well, maybe that'll slide him up a little bit. But I don't foresee that. I think he'll run well enough, but I think he's an early day 3 or maybe late. Like that comp pick, day 3, round 3 comp picks, he could be one of those guys.
Okay, and maybe even round 4. I got another name for you. What about Kirby Joseph from Illinois? I'm seeing he had 5 picks in 12 games. He could really jump. He's fast. I don't know if he can tackle, but everyone else in the Niners secondary can tackle. What do you think of Kirby Joseph?
I'm not familiar with him just yet.
Okay. Well, I'm seeing he's sort of like he could go around late 3 from Illinois. 5. I guess he didn't play that much. What about Brian Cook from Cincinnati? Is he just a box safety?
No, because they ran a ton of zone coverage.
Okay.
So they were pretty safe I don't know. It depends on who you ask. I remember asking Kobe Bryant. He was like, yeah, we played a ton of man. But whenever I watch Cincinnati film, I don't see a ton of man. So he is a guy that will definitely understand concepts, reading zones, understand where he's supposed to be. 49ers went to a ton of too high last year where they were running cover 2 or cover 4, some quarters in there. So, yeah, he's definitely a guy that could fit that style of defense.
You've talked to Kobe Bryant from Cincinnati?
Yeah, at the Senior Bowl.
Oh, okay. Well, we're going to talk about him in a minute. Any other safeties you want to mention before we move on?
No,
we got a good amount.
Lewis Cine, he's a guy out of Georgia, but I don't know. I mean, ran extremely well. I don't know if he'll be there late second round.
Right, he could be a first round pick. All right, let's go to wide receiver. I think this is a sleeper need for the 49ers. They have good wide receivers, but to me, they don't have a deep threat. And like a legit 4-3 guy. It was like Travis Benjamin, and before that it was Marquise Goodwin. It seems like something Kyle wants, but didn't have because of Jimmy. And now that Trey's here, it feels like it's something they should invest in. I don't know. That's the way I look at it. So the wide receivers I'm going to be looking at are like legit 4-3 guys. Who are the ones that you think the Niners should be looking at in day 2?
All right, so this guy is not a 4-3, but he did originally test as a 4-3-3 at the combine. Once the official times came out, he ran a 4-4-1. Shows plenty of speed. He's able to win vertically down the field. He can do 50-50 catches, or he can win with speed. But that is Alec Pierce, a receiver out of Cincinnati.
Okay.
Now, I think –
and this Cincinnati team was loaded. Wow.
Yeah,
Cincinnati. Sorry, go ahead. Wow.
Yeah, they had a lot of guys. Wow. So I think Alec Pierce would work best out of this slot, and he'd be terrific. He'd be the best pure slot receiver the 49ers have. Right now, they do some of the slot stuff with Juwan Jennings. Well, just imagine if Juwan Jennings actually had vertical speed to beat defenders and is able to separate more with routes underneath. I think Alec Pierce brings you all of that. I'm not saying it just because he's a white guy, but he really
I didn't even know he was a white guy.
Yeah, he's a white guy. He has a very similar skill set as Cooper Kupp, where he's big slot because he's 6'2", 211 pounds. He moves very well. When I was at the Senior Bowl watching him, I'm like, damn, he's definitely more twitched up than what I was expecting to see, especially watching him live. But he's a guy who I think in a slot, he would kill it, or just tight, condensed formations that the 49ers like to run. I think he'd do extremely well. He'd be the fastest receiver that the 49ers have, at least on paper, from kind of the main guys, and it brings you much more than Juwan Jennings. Now, you hear Fred Warner talk about Juwan Jennings and Richard Sherman. They raved about him. I am not quite seeing that, but I think Alec Pierce definitely gives you much more as a big slot receiver.
Averaging 17.5 yards per catch for his career at Cincinnati. That's exactly the kind of guy the Niners don't have on their team. I love it. Alec Pierce, that would be round 2.
That would be round 2.
That would be round 2. All right, that's a great name. If he's there at 61, he could be the best player available. Anyone else you like?
So I do like Calvin Austin out of Memphis. Now, he's smaller. He's 5'8". He's 170 pounds. He was a guy who, going to the Senior Bowl, people were like, hey, look out for Calvin Austin. I had no idea what he looked like. I had no idea how big he was, how small he was, how fast he was. Nothing. I just went in, and he was one of my focus players. Him and, Alec Pierce. But right away when I watched him, and I know 49 fans are going to want a big guy because, you don't have a lot of size with Ayuk or Debo in the sense of height.
Sure.
They're both a shade under 6 foot. He's much further down than 6 foot at 5'8". But, I mean, they could not guard him. They couldn't guard him in the slot. They couldn't guard him on the outside. They couldn't guard him playing off. They couldn't guard him playing press. I mean, he beat them every which way possible. He beat them with routes. He beat them with speed. I mean, it was very impressive. If not for Christian Watson, who had a tremendous performance at the Senior Bowl week, Calvin Austin, he was my second best receiver for sure. So again, 49er fans, I see it in the chat right now, too small. Couldn't tell at the Senior Bowl. He killed everybody.
Also, it's like if you want a wide receiver with size and speed, those guys go in round 1. Like you want Christian Watson. Do you understand how expensive it would be for the Niners to Christian Watson isn't dropping past pick 40, 6'4", 4.3 speed. Like everyone wants that.
Now there might be, if you do want someone who's probably going to be there, who has some decent size, has contested catch ability, and he ran the fastest 40 at the combine for receivers. It was Thornton out of Baylor. And I know there's going to be some parallels to Denzel Mims. I don't think they're similar. I think he showed a little bit more twitch to them. Definitely can work on the top of his route.
Did he run a 4.28?
Yeah.
Wow.
And he plays every bit as fast as he ran his 40. I mean, he is a blazer. He's 6'2", about 180 pounds. So he has slight build, but still has size. I thought he was really good at contested catches. I was really surprised by that because sometimes with these speed guys, they depend so much on that. They don't develop like the legit ball tracking skills, but he was good at all that. Again, can work more on his at the top of routes. But even then, short areas, thought he was good. Turned around some cornerbacks on slants. Even in short areas like near the end zone, they had him run like just this crosser, and he just separated by 5 yards right away. I think Thornton, that's a guy who I think he'll be there at 61. So that's a guy to look forward to.
But I'm sold on the first two guys you named, Alec Pierce and Calvin Austin. Like they just became my draft crushes right now. They're like totally on the opposite ends of the spectrum for wide receivers. One's 6'3", one's 5'8", but they're both fast. And what I like about Calvin Austin is he returns kicks too. He has 2 kickoff returns for touchdowns. Ray McLeod has 0 in his career. I think this guy would be really cool. It seems like Calvin Austin, I don't know if he'll be there at 93. They might have to trade up a little bit for him, but what a great pick that would be. Calvin Austin or Pierce.
It brings a different dynamic than what the 49ers have. They're missing 2 things. Obviously, they're missing that vertically just speed guy with size, or just a pure speedster like a Jakeem Grant who might be undersized, but man, you just get the ball in his hands in space, or you could throw the ball downfield to him, or again, like you said, it brings a special teams aspect to things.
Yeah, absolutely. Ken Martin says Tyquan Thornton, wide receiver, 4.2 speed, 6'2", deep threat, can play slot, also great blocker. That was a good sleeper one. I like that one.
Yeah,
like him. I'm most excited about. I like scouting wide receivers every year. It's that and quarterback probably the most fun. And I'm glad that the Niners have a need this year, so it gives us an excuse to look.
We think they have a need, but most fans are like, "Oh no, they're fine there." And I'm like, man, like to me, they seem very slim there.
Extremely. And the fact that they just went after Ray McLeod makes me feel like they're everyone says this is a special class of wide receivers. They should want a piece of it. I think that they're gonna dip their toes into it. Re-sign Dante Pettis for the deep threat. You know, whatever was up with Dante Pettis. Dante Pettis never really could run. I'd like them to go for a guy who can freaking run really fast. They haven't
a guy that could really just fly in and jump off. That's Thornton. And on film, you see his quarterback underthrow him several times. I mean, he was easily getting behind defenders.
Ken says, Grant, I've been telling you about Tyquan Thornton and Jerry and Ely RB3 speedster dual threat punt returner. You have. And we're going to talk about running backs too, but I want to go back to defense. Who are some day 2 cornerbacks the Niners could target? You mentioned one already from this football factory that is University of Cincinnati. Damn.
Yeah, Kobe Bryant. He's a guy, he might not have as much twitch as I typically would like, but he was definitely a player who, he did a lot of things very well. Maybe not a guy that the athleticism, like the upside, isn't quite there with what the 49ers typically like from their corners. I mean, if you look at Ambry Thomas, like he was a freak athletically. If you look at even a guy that they got undrafted
back in the day,
Ahkello Witherspoon. People don't realize this, but Ahkello Witherspoon was 6'3", 200 pounds, and ran a 4.45 at the combine. Like that's terrific speed. So I don't know. Kobe Bryant kind of fits that mold, but I'm definitely intrigued by him. A guy I could potentially see at 61 if they want to go that route, Roger McCreary out of Auburn. He didn't run very well at the combine. He ran a 4.55. And for a guy that is 5'11", 185 pounds, so he's kind of slight built, you want to see that speed element. And then he has another knock against him. He has some of the shortest arms I've ever seen. I mean, they were like 28 and a half inches, like something crazy like that, where teams want 32-inch. There are some teams, if it ain't 32-inch, they don't want you.
The Niners are sort of like that.
Yeah, they'll 31 inches, but
his
was like 28, 29 inches. Now, his film is really good. Okay. Really good. I mean, he was able to run vertically with guys. The technique was good. He challenged guys. He made some plays on the ball. Reminds me a lot of Damon Arnett, though, in the sense of I really like Arnett's film, but I thought he'd be a late day 2 guy based on how he measured in. And you can live with whatever happens. Raiders drafted him in the first round, and it just did not work out. Maybe off the field issues. He was trying to kill people and stuff like that. I don't think Roger McCreary is going
in the way. Yeah, absolutely.
Now another corner, potentially day 2. And I think I saw someone
stuff like that. That was hella funny. Keep going. Sorry.
Yeah, he tried to kill
people. Got some distractions.
Gosh, where's my guy out of Clemson?
Hold on, let's go back to Kobe Bryant real quick. Okay, I like Kobe Bryant. Let's stick with Kobe Bryant. I'm looking at him. So he started opposite Sauce Gardner, which is interesting. When I was a kid,
and won the Thorpe Award. The Thorpe Award, best corner in the nation or DB in the nation.
I mean, everyone's afraid of Sauce Gardner, so they're targeting Kobe Bryant. He's gotten targeted a lot. He had 9 picks in college. He had 4 picks in 2020.
Well, the crazy thing is, for a while, he was the bigger name. Like, it was Kobe Bryant, and Sauce Gardner just came on kind of because, the size, the athleticism. So he's definitely the much better prospect. But originally, Kobe Bryant was kind of the guy people leaned on.
Okay, and the Niners, you think they could get him, what, 93? 104?
I think 61.
61. Okay.
But, after that, it's kind of tough because the 49ers, they pick so far in between.
Okay. All right. Sorry, I cut you off. So are there any other corners you like?
Yeah, Damari Mathis out of Clemson. He's a guy that, blew away the combine with his 40-yard time, jumped out the building at the pro day with his vertical jump. Broad jump was crazy. His mom kind of called me out and was like, hey, y'all not mentioning my son enough. And I was like, dang, my bad. I talked about him at the Senior Bowl. I thought he did a terrific job. He wasn't one of my focus players, but when you just looked at how he was competing, challenging guys in one-on-one, the hips, challenging guys at the catch point, I thought he did a terrific job there. I watched him on film and, again, saw some really good stuff. Now, dang, there was another corner I watched after him who I thought was just a little bit better of a prospect. Oh, the corner out of Alabama. He has 3 names. Amore Davis, number 5. He's another guy. Both of these guys ran in the 4.3s, so they could fly from that standpoint. Davis, I think, Amore Davis, I think that's a guy 49ers really would like, whether it's at 61 or maybe at some point in the 3rd round. We'll see if he goes that far, but I thought his technique was on point. Didn't have quite as much twitch as I ideally would like, but again, I thought another guy who was really good. I think the Mathis kid from Pittsburgh, I think he had a little bit more twitch to his game and also tested through the roof. Maybe kind of reminds me a little bit of my guy Marco Wilson, who was drafted out of Florida the year prior.
Can any of these guys play in the slot? Because that's kind of important for this team.
Mathis was a guy that they worked in the slot at the Senior Bowl.
Okay.
So he worked inside and outside.
Okay. I got a name for you. What about 5'8" dude from Houston, Marcus Jones?
He's another guy that a lot of 49er fans is kind of they latch on to this name and it's like, oh, they got to get him. And I think he's a guy that they've latched on to. But again, you talked about the special teams aspect that the 49ers are desperately needing. We'll see if the receiver they signed is that guy. But Marcus Jones, he had a game. I watched him live, not live, but like watching it live on television against Alec Pierce. And I thought it was a really good battle, especially for a guy who is 5'8". He's not the biggest of guys, but Pierce got him late, touchdown, dunked on him. But he also Jones also broke up a couple passes vertically down the field. So he has some good stuff. He can line up inside, outside. I think because he's shorter, people are definitely going to pigeonhole him into being just a pure slot cornerback. But he is a guy that I like.
Okay, let's move on back to offense. Running back. I think a lot of Niner fans don't want the Niners to draft running backs early, but they love to. Kyle Shanahan is different than his dad. He drafted Trey Sermon early. He makes big investments in the running back, and sometimes he just can't help himself. If that's the case, which running backs do you think Kyle Shanahan could fall in love with in day 2?
Oh, man. James Cook, that's the guy that I like a lot. He's one of my top 5 running backs in this class. Now we all know running backs. You could think somebody's top 5, but shoot, they could damn near go 4th round. He's a guy who's not the biggest of guys, 5'11", 200 pounds, but he ran low 4.4s. I believe it was 4.42 to be exact. Obviously, when you hear the last name Cook, he's out of Georgia. His brother's Dalvin Cook. I think they have different running styles for the most part. But if you want to talk about a guy who was explosive as a runner, led the team in rush yards per attempt, but he split time with White. But he was a terrific pass catcher. Terrific. I mean, down the field, everything that they want Hasty to be, he's that and more because he has more pure speed as a pass catcher as well. So that's the first guy. Then another guy, Tyler Batty out of Missouri. Again, not the biggest guys, 5'8", 197 pounds, but he brings that dual threat capability as well.
Okay. I'm going to name some other names for you. What about Damian Pierce from Florida? I mean, they probably have to take him in round 2. What do you think about him?
I've watched a couple games of him. I didn't quite see as much dynamicness as I saw from maybe Cook or Batty. And there's another guy, Cincinnati running back. Gosh, why am I blanking on his name right now?
Jerome Ford?
Yeah, Jerome Ford. He's another guy who I think people thought would run faster than what he did, but he definitely has the ability to be like an explosive running back. People thought he'd run in the 4.3s. He didn't. He ran closer to 4.5. He's like mid 4.4s. But he's a guy, he has a really good dual threat.
All right, I got a running back who ran the 4.3s. This dude ran a 4.37, went to South Dakota State, 5'11", 207, Pierre Strong. What do you think of him?
I haven't watched him yet, but I do know a couple of guys that play at South Dakota State, so I can ask him about him.
Okay, good to know. I'm intrigued by James Cook. It seems like that would be a guy the Niners would go after. He's got the bloodlines. Didn't Mike Shanahan draft a running back from Georgia that worked out pretty good? What's his name? Terrell Davis, I think. Maybe.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Mike Shanahan.
Yeah, Georgia running backs tend to be pretty good. Garrison Hurst. Just saying. I could be wrong. Okay, I like that. James.
Well, you name those 2 guys. I mean, you got Nick Chubb. You got DeAndre Swift.
That's true.
Sony
Michel, who wasn't great.
Sony Michel, but he was, Georgia. On and on. Todd Gurley.
Gurley. Yeah, that's true. That's true. All right, let's move on. Linebacker. This is an underrated need, but Dre Greenlaw could be traded. Azeez Al-Shaair might not come back. They have a very expensive middle linebacker. They're very good at drafting and developing this position. What are some linebackers you think the Niners could target on day 3?
Troy Anderson. Both of these guys that I'm about to mention are smaller school, not Power 5, but you got Troy Anderson from Montana State, just shy of 6'4", 243 pounds. He was the fastest linebacker at the combine.
4.42.
Ran a 4.42. White dude too. He can fly. All right. Now, he is a guy. 49ers have really liked those linebackers that are kind of those Swiss Army knives. He has played, I feel like, every position on the football field. I want to say he was like a quarterback coming into college, or played quarterback there, and then went to like safety, played linebacker. I mean, he's played multiple positions. 49ers have liked those guys at linebackers. You talked about Dre Greenlaw. He played some safety at Arkansas. You talked about Azeez Al-Shaair. He played some safety. Talk about Fred Warner. He played some safety, some defensive back as well. So you look at Anderson, he kind of fits that mold. And then there's another guy, another white guy at linebacker, but Chad Muma. He's a guy who led the nation in tackling. I think they were kind of concerned about his pure athleticism, but he tested it very well. Very well. Again, led the nation. I think his ability to really play downhill is terrific. He's a guy out of Wyoming. So got a Montana State guy and a Wyoming guy. Those are some of my 2 favorite linebacker prospects that could be there at some point day 3 for the 49ers.
I'm reading that the Montana State guy met with the Niners in Indy, so that's a good call right there. Those guys seem like they could go round 2. If the Niners wait a little bit longer, there's Quay Walker, if I'm not pronouncing that correctly, from Georgia.
Yeah, Georgia, he could fly.
And then also Brandon Smith from Penn State, ran a 4.52, 6'3", 250. Know anything about him? I'm just getting to know these guys. No. Brandon Smith. So anyway, that's a bunch of names. I wouldn't be surprised if the Niners targeted a linebacker. They could always get a developmental guy later on in the draft, but they do so well. They really know what to do with these safety turn linebacker projects. Maybe that's why they brought Oren Burks in, because they felt Packers don't know what to do with him. Yeah. That's what he was, right? All right. Sticking on defense. Interior defensive line. I'm not sure that the Niners will draft one. They have already 10 defensive linemen on their team right now. But to me, losing Arden Key is big. Losing DJ Jones is big. And if they could find an interior pass rusher in particular, be helpful, because I'm not sure who that fourth pass rusher is right now in their 3rd and 8 packages. So who are you looking at in the interior defensive line?
So first guy who I've watched, and I watched him in person, Travis Jones out of UConn. I mean, he was terrific. Okay. He was causing hell in there. And again, kind of almost like a DJ Jones, where he wasn't like very tall, but I mean, he was like quick off the ball, good hands, good power. I mean, I felt like he kept flashing for me at the Senior Bowl week. So Travis Jones is one guy. Then another guy who I have not watched yet, but I have my guy on our show, Locked On NFL Draft, with myself, Ryan Tracy. On Thursday's episodes, we have our guy Rob Rang that comes on, and
Rob Rang's great.
Yeah, Rob was talking about this guy Noah Ellis out of Idaho, and he just talked about how he raved about him. I mean, terrific pro day. He's a guy, I guess, maybe had some off-field kind of issues or whatever, but if you can straighten them out, he's a terrific talent. So Noah Ellis, I have not watched him, but Rob Rang raved about his ability.
Okay, I'm looking at another guy, Perrion Winfrey from Oklahoma.
I liked him.
Okay,
I liked him at the Senior Bowl.
What do you know about him? They look at him at 6'4", 292. What do you know about him?
Oh, he was good. And again, Senior Bowl, shout out to Jim Nagy. He's done a terrific job with the talent that they've gotten to the Senior Bowl. But Winfrey, there was an edge rusher they had. They had an edge rusher and they had the interior guy. I didn't know either guy, but what I walked away definitely 100% knowing who Winfrey was and how good he played. Another guy who won consistently inside. Not the biggest of guys in the sense of like his weight.
Right.
And we'll see, how the 49ers feel about that, because he has height, but he's still shy of 300 pounds. But he was good there. Interior might be more of a 3-tech type guy.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. I'd like a guy who can win a one-on-one matchup on the interior. I'm not worried as much about like run defense. I think the Niners can get those guys. So that's one dude, and then another dude is from Stanford, Thomas Booker. Do you know anything about him?
I have not seen him yet.
He ran a 4.94. He's 3'6", 310. Anyway, those are some interior pass rushers the Niners could target. And then finally, quarterback. To me, this is an underrated need. I'm starting to feel like Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be the backup this year, which makes me want to throw up. But if he's not, and the Niners trade him or do the right thing and just cut him, I don't think Nate Sudfeld is good enough or enough. I think they need to hedge their bet on that. The dude has never started a game. And if Trey Lance misses a month, they can't let that month sink their season. Like they need someone who can at least win a couple of games like Colt McCoy did for Arizona. So who are some quarterbacks the Niners might be tempted in looking at this year?
All right, so one of the bigger knocks on Trey Lance coming out of college was didn't have a bunch of passing attempts, right? And even like when I watch him, you can still see just needs the reps throwing the ball, just get more comfortable. Well, this guy won't have an issue with being comfortable throwing the rock because Bailey Zappi out of Western Kentucky, he was a guy that originally started at a Division II school, then transferred to a smaller D1 school, but he led the nation. He broke the record for most passing yards in the season. So he holds that. I don't know who held it before. Maybe Colt Brennan or maybe who was
that? 62 touchdown passes. Damn.
Oh yeah. Do a ton of touchdowns. So Zappi, he has no issue. But now again, I think he fits kind of Kyle Shanahan's mold. Obviously, Trey Lance is a little different than these guys, but 6'1", 215 pounds. Kind of in the same size of a Nick Mullins or Jimmy Garoppolo, right? Not the biggest of guys, but he's a guy that, I mean, he could let it rip. He could throw the ball all around the yard. So he's a guy that I like. And then one other guy, EJ Perry.
You think him like late round 3?
I think day 3.
Day 3.
I think day 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then EJ Perry, he's a guy out of Brown, small school guy, could potentially get him undrafted. So that's a guy that, if you want that guy, and the 49ers they've kind of went that direction. I mean, outside of obviously what they did with CJ Beathard, but I think the undrafted route, a guy like this, it makes a lot of sense.
All right. There's one guy the Niners have to at least have a conversation about. It's possible that at pick 61, Carson Strong will drop to them. What do you think of him? Would he be worth? I mean, the idea of the Niners spending their first pick on a quarterback this year would be so controversial, and it'd probably be stupid as hell. But they at least have to have the conversation. What do you think of Carson Strong?
It would be good for content, right? Carson Strong again. Another guy I watched at the Senior Bowl, and I wasn't very impressed.
You can't move.
From what I saw, definitely like kind of lacks in the mobility aspect. Has a good arm. For whatever reason, it was kind of said that he had like this cannon. I didn't really see that at any point in the whole process. No, I think his arm naturally is a little bigger than him, but he's not as precise of a passer as Mac Jones. But their mobility is kind of the same. I think Mac Jones kind of has a little bit underrated, little sneaky athleticism to him, where he can take off and pick up 10 yards. Yeah. Carson Strong, kind of, but I don't know. Definitely wouldn't go. I wouldn't draft a quarterback day 2 at all.
Right.
I think if I'm the 49ers and I do want to draft a quarterback at some point, it would be more 5th round, and I would see
round 5, round 6. Yeah, you're getting a backup anyway. Troy Anderson also played quarterback at MSU. He's all over the field. As an MT Grizz fan, I love to hate him. LOL.
Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah, I said he played quarterback starting off at Montana State.
Ken Martin says they're looking at James Cook, seen him twice. Marquise Bell, safety, Florida A&M. Thoughts, Croc?
I haven't watched him yet.
I missed all these. My bad. Grant, I've been telling you about. Okay, we got that one. I think that's it. All right. Well, that was a good draft primer. We got a month. If you're trying to be like a mock drafter at home, this is required watching. Eric Crocker just laid it out for you, like 8 different positions. It's hard to like do your mock drafts, but he just gave you 4 or 5 players at each one. You guys are all experts now. Study these players, watch their YouTube clips, and in a month, you will be more qualified to draft than John Lynch, or at least you could feel that way. That's what we do here for you. Yeah, close. Croc, thanks a lot, man. I always appreciate your time.
All right. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, everyone. I'll be back a little later with Jason Aponte.